your wins. And so then you just end up in this perpetual cycle of chasing after something that never feels fulfilling. And it sucks all the joy out of the journey. So I hired another coach. I thought I was hiring her for online marketing. And what she gave me was so much more. And the biggest lesson that I learned from her was the joy that you can have in your business. She's like, what's the point of doing all this if you're stressed out every single day? Like, you can go back to corporate and do that if you want to. Don't create another prison for yourself where you're held hostage by your own goals and your own mindset. And she really showed me that sometimes you can do less and make more money. And the more fun you have, the more money you make, the bigger impact you have on other people.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast. In the Champions Corner edition, I'm Mike Deaton, and together with Lydia, my co-host in life, business, and this podcast, we're taking you into the training room, deep in the dojo, sharing the secrets of what it takes to forge a champion. We're digging deep into mindset mastery, high-performance habits, best-in-class behaviors, and bringing you the tips and techniques that maximize human potential, brought to you from some of the best in the business.
So grab your buds and your seat. Hit subscribe and get ready to up your game. Let's do the show.
Let's do it. Welcome to another In the Champions Corner episode. Today, we're bringing you a repeat guest to share her insights on building success, mastering your mindset, and developing expertise in sales. Keeley Hubbard. Keeley always seems to have many irons in the fire and maintains an infectious energy of positivity. She's currently a passionate sales coach with a super impressive track record of amassing over $800 million in revenue and 17 years of experience in sales and executive leadership. She loves working with business owners and corporations across a wide array of industries. Near and dear to her heart, Keeley particularly enjoys coaching clients in the real estate investing niche and educating them on how to raise capital on repeat and build a brand that lasts. Keeley's also managing partner of Texas Legacy Vines, a ground-up vineyard development and operation in the great state of Texas. And she's the reigning champion from her earlier matchup against Outdoor Hospitality in a Fight Club battle. All this and more is just ahead, so hold on to your earbuds as we get in the Champions Corner with Miss Keeley Hubbard. All right. Well, welcome, Keeley, to the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast in the Champions Corner edition. We are super glad to have you on as a repeat guest, so thanks for coming.
I feel very honored to be here. Thank y'all so much.
Yeah, you bet. You're fresh off your matchup win as a vineyard champion against the Outdoor Hospitality guys. You took down two people in the matchup, which is great.
That was so much fun. I was a little bit nervous when you first told me that we had to go up against another.
Right? I have to be aggressive or what's going on here? No, all good. So, yeah, this one will be more low key. Like I said, we're talking here about what it takes to be a champion, success factors, overcoming limiting beliefs, habits, all that kind of stuff. So I know we have explored your background before, but maybe briefly walk us through a little bit of that again for any new listeners or people that didn't catch you on your first episode.
Yeah, definitely. I am probably most well known for sales. I've been in sales for 18 years. I'm one of those weirdos that just loves it. Like, I'm obsessed with sales. I love teaching it. Most people are terrified of it, and it's because they can't stand salespeople. So my passion is showing business owners that there's a way to sell and generate a lot of revenue and feel really good about what you're doing, and your clients thanking you as a result of it. So that's my background. That's my passion. I left corporate in 2017 at the peak of my career and just was burnout. And this entrepreneurial journey has been a wild ride, but I wouldn't change anything for the world. I'm so grateful for all the lessons that have come out of it, and get to do real estate now with my dad as well, which I didn't have the time to do that when I was in corporate. So living my best life and so grateful every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that story. You can never get enough of, corporate's great. I loved it also for decades. It fulfilled a lot of needs and wants for me, and I got a lot of growth out of it. But I meet so many people that went through a similar journey. I know I did. You just come to a point to where you either think there's more to life or there can be more to life, or you have just different avenue you want to pursue or something, but it's great. I certainly highly recommend it. I know a lot of our listeners are W-2 people and entrepreneurs, but what I would say, throughout your career, were there significant challenges and growth opportunities that stand out that, you pulled from that
Major.
drive you
Yeah,
today?
lots of them. I really figured out what I was capable of in 2013. So my family had bought a franchise in 2010 of this corporation, franchisor, right, that had individual franchises around the world selling high ticket financial
Hmm.
education, basically. And that's really where my sales career took off. And had a lot of trials in that and really figured out, okay, I'm actually really good at this, and did so well that my dad was like, you know what, this franchise, the market was too small that we were in. He wanted to sell it back to corporate. He's like, this is more than I wanted to take on. But I'd done so well in such a small market that corporate said, can you come teach this to all of our franchisees? And that terrified me because I knew how to sell for myself. Like I knew that it worked for me,
Hmm.
but to be able to take that and put it into a system and a process, and now you have the pressure of like the entire company's revenue. Like, what if this doesn't work? The company was doing about 40 million a year in revenue. And these are franchise owners that, profit margins are tight and they can't afford to take a hit. So I was terrified of teaching it because I didn't know if it would work. And so that was kind of my first big hurdle. And I'm proud to say that we really turned the company for the better and grew it from 40 million to 220 million a year. We did it in less than 4 years. And I'm so proud of that. It was a wild ride. Many times where I felt that imposter syndrome, like, who am I to be teaching this, doing this? But I've just found that like your biggest opportunities for growth and earning self-respect is saying yes to the hard stuff and figuring out what you're really made of.
Yeah, love that. So, in those moments, was it just grit and grind, or were there certain techniques that you used to help push you through that imposter syndrome or doubt that the program's going to work and just
Yeah. Yeah, it's I had a coach. I have a really good
yeah.
coach, and it's interesting because I rehired him. He was my sales coach when I first started selling in high ticket, and then he became my executive coach when I was a VP. And for many years, he just helped me keep my head in check. I think that's
Mhm.
the biggest challenge in any role that you're in. And when I said self-respect and doing the hard things are earned by really proving to yourself, okay, I'm capable of this, you build kind of this pile of confidence, I guess
Mhm.
you could call it, or you deposit confidence in your own bank of, okay, man, I did this. Like I could totally take on the next task. I was at lunch with a billionaire. This was a while back. And he said something that was profound and it will stick with me forever. And it was just like, he said it in the conversation and didn't spend much time there, but he just said very kind of nonchalantly, I always win. And I was like, huh. Like, I could tell like he truly believes
Yeah.
that about himself. And you look at people that have done extremely well in their lives and those that continue to struggle, and it's a belief thing.
Mm.
Like, do I believe that I'm capable of it? And if you believe that you always win, you follow through with the actions that give you the results, and you always find a way to win. So I had help along the way. I had a really good coach and just built up that muscle over time of, okay, I can do this because look at my track record of what I've already done.
Yeah, that's so important. And yeah, that must have been lunch with me. I think that you were talking about.
It was.
But, no, we're going through,
Thanks for
Lidge and I are going through some material right now in two different avenues. So we were and are in a program, Strategic Coach with Dan Sullivan. I'm sure you're familiar with Who Not How and some of
Yes.
those things. So he has so many concepts, and a lot of these concepts are not revolutionary concepts, right? They're grounded in some element of an OG back there somewhere. But and then Tony Robbins, I think, has a very similar framework of uh, this confidence building coming as a result of several series of smaller wins, right? Going through different obstacles. They can be big also, but it's certainly easier if you're, drawing on a lot of smaller ones that you go through, and all of that stemming as exactly as you said through belief and really, that's the it's all cyclical, so it's hard to say which comes first. But certainly, the stronger and the more powerful your belief, the more capable and courageous you are to step into other uncomfortable situations, and then just gain that momentum and that confidence over time, that really propels you. So yeah, I like this technique of stacking up your wins and doing that. I've been
Mm.
um, maybe for 2 or 3 months now, very consciously every evening writing down 3 wins from the day. Like, and they're typically small things like, hey, I had this on my action list and I met some resistance and I did it, or something like that. And it's really just an effort to help build up that mindset of accomplishment rather than looking. I think it was from the book The Gap in the Game from Dan Sullivan, but it's trying to look at things more from a gain and a virtuous perspective rather than where you're not yet gotten to,
Yeah.
because we all have goals and we haven't quite reached certain things, and it's easy to get caught up, especially as entrepreneurs, like, oh my god, I wanted to have done this by now, or I still need to earn this next bucket of revenue or something. But yeah.
Yeah. We don't celebrate. I feel like we just beat ourselves up constantly. And I was at a Tony Robbins conference, and one of his speakers was like, quit being a self beater. Like you just beat yourself up for everything. Like you accomplish something really cool, and you don't ever say like, man, hey, that was amazing. Like I'm so proud of you. You don't say that to yourself. It's like, well, so and so, did 400,000 of
Right.
revenue, and you right? Or you did it and took you 9 months and they did it in two, and
Yeah.
you don't celebrate your wins. And
Yes.
so then you just end up in this perpetual cycle of chasing after something that never feels fulfilling, and it sucks all the joy out of the journey. So I hired another coach. I thought I was hiring her for online marketing, and what she gave me was so much more. And
Mm.
the biggest lesson that I learned from her was the joy that you can have in your business. She's like, "What's the point of doing all this
Mhm.
if you're stressed out every single day? Like,
Yes.
you can go back
Yes.
to corporate and do that if you want to. Don't create another prison for yourself where you're held hostage by your own goals and your own mindset." And
Mm.
she really showed me that sometimes you can do less and make more money. And the more fun you have, the more money you make, the
Mm.
bigger impact you have on other people.
So true. Yeah,
Yes.
that's great. Well, so today you have made the leap from the world of corporate into your own businesses. I would say you have a few things going on. Yeah, catch us up a little bit. What all's going on in your world?
Yeah. So today I am a high ticket sales coach, which basically means if it requires a conversation to close a deal and you hate sales, that is my wheelhouse. Or maybe you like sales, but you're like, I need to get to the next level. I love the conversation aspect of sales because that's really what it is. And I work with a lot of different business owners across many different industries. I've got a client who was in cybersecurity and she was selling, $1 to $2 million contracts. I've got realtors, interior designers, coaches, a lot of capital raisers in the commercial
Mhm.
real estate space. And so I really enjoy working with those clients. And then the other business venture with my father enjoy so much. We've done a lot of commercial real estate stuff. We're heavily focused in agriculture right now and building and operating vineyards in Texas. So that's been a lot of fun to do business with him, and that's what I have going on now. But I'll tell you, when I made the leap, I think this is important for people to know. And I know you've got, if you're listening and you have a W two, I'm not saying like leave it. Some people I feel like are called, they love their job, stay there if you love it. I just got emotionally burnt out and felt like I was called to make a bigger impact, and I could only do that by running my own business. But when I left, I fell flat on my face in my first business venture. And I completely just, I don't even want to call it, I didn't go bankrupt, but I leveled myself financially.
Mm.
Like when I first stepped out into my first business venture. And there were so many lessons out of that. But I partnered with somebody and poured everything I had into this business. Like, just, I was already in my mind counting the rewards and the impact of what it would have on my family if this was able to come to fruition. And about a week before it was supposed to go live, the whole thing fell apart just unexpectedly. And it was crushing. Like, I was devastated from it. And, I'd poured my entire life savings into it. I'd gone into debt for it. Like it was pretty big. So within 30 days, I sold my dream home. I sold everything. I sold the chandelier that I had installed in the ceiling, like everything that I owned, and had to start over. And I remember, when that happened, I was like, man, was I not cut out for business? Like, am I
Mhm.
not, maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I shouldn't have left this, cushy corporate job. And I knew that I could go get a headhunter, go find another, executive role or go into sales again if I wanted to. And so I went to a Tony Robbins event. I feel like that's what most people do when their life is a disaster. And so I went to a Tony Robbins event, and that's where I really figured out, like, for me, going back to corporate was sitting in the stands and kind of playing it safe.
Mhm.
And I've never felt like I could look myself in the mirror and be honest with myself that if I just surrendered that easily. So I picked my sword up, got back in the arena, figured it out. And, the lesson that I learned from that was I truly feel like the whole thing didn't work because I was still hiding.
Mhm.
I was hiding behind another business partner, putting them out in front. Let me build your business. You're the front person. So I didn't have to be vulnerable and wondering, am I enough? Do people think I'm enough where they want to trust me to hire me to coach them? So I'm going to build somebody else's business because I know how to do that. And so the whole thing blew up. And I really feel like it was God saying, like, listen, girl, that's how God talks to me, by the way.
Yeah.
That's my voice in my head. Listen, girl, I've been dealing with you for years now. And I keep telling you, it's your turn. It's your turn to put yourself out there. There are people that I've called you to help. Stop hiding. And so I'm so like, that was a big moment for me, leaving corporate, falling flat on my face and doing it all over again, but doing it the right way.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Do you mind elaborating a little bit more on this? I know that from my experience, and many people struggle when they meet resistance and obstacles. They struggle to maintain that growth mindset. And how do you approach that? Because I'm sure you were faced many, many times, not just this time. How do you approach that? And what advice do you give to your clients if they're in the similar situations?
Yeah, that's such a great question. When I went through that, I feel like you still have to feel all the emotions. Like, don't surrender so fast that you're like, okay, I'm going to fix this really quick. I'm going to go back to corporate. I'm going to go back to what I know and build, build, build. I had to sit in that for a little bit and it
Mhm.
was messy, but I had to
Yeah.
just stay there and figure out, okay, why did this fall apart? What decisions did I make? Did I see any red flags? Should I have not gone down this path? And so I really feel like that kind of processing it emotionally was so important for me to know what I really wanted to do next and to really fully commit to the next step versus just slapping a band-aid on it. You got to sew the wound up if it's a deep wound. And for me, it was because I kept hiding. Like that was the real issue. Keely, what are you really afraid of? And I was really afraid of not being enough when I did put myself out there, that nobody would listen and nobody would care. And so sitting in that and doing a lot of work on myself is what got me through it. It's like building that emotional strength and that emotional fitness where you don't have that naturally. Naturally, our default brain is survival mode. What is there that's going to threaten me, that's going to hurt me? That's what we call it
Reptilian brain.
dinosaurs, not dinosaur. Our reptilian brain, thank you, is always looking for what's missing. There's not enough. There's not enough time, not enough money, not enough clients. Like that's where our brain naturally goes. And so I spent a lot of time doing deep work on myself to develop the emotional strength to handle no matter what comes my way. I know that God will give me the grace and the wisdom to walk through it because this is not the last challenge I'm going to deal with in my life.
Yes.
They keep coming, but I deal with them a lot better now and I don't surrender. I get back in the arena and experience the emotions, learn the lesson from it, but let it make you stronger for the next realm.
That's so great. And I'm going to circle back to your lunch with your billionaire. And when he said, I never lose, this is what I took away from it is that no matter the outcome of something, if you learn from it, right? If you sit in it, as you said, and introspect and take away key learnings and grow, then it's not a loss. It's a learning
Yeah,
opportunity, and you carry it forward. So yeah,
that's powerful. I think also a lot of people, they get knocked out in the arena. Y'all know I love talking about the arena and the man in the arena, but they get knocked out in the arena, they lose a battle and they give up and they attach that loss in that role they played in their life, that failure that they had, they attach it to their identity and they say, I'm a failure.
Mhm.
And the minute you do that, you start spiraling because we have a lot of roles in our life. Role as a business owner. A lot of people, if you're listening, you're a mother, a father, you're a soccer coach, maybe you're a youth pastor. We have a lot of roles that we play in our life, and we can't let the performance in those roles dictate how we feel about ourselves. So I think I've learned that, like, okay, I failed in my role as a business owner, as a partner in that company. That was a failure. But that doesn't mean that's no reflection on who I am as a person. I'm always a 10. And if you can keep your thermostat where you realize I'm always a 10, no matter how I perform in my roles, it makes it so much easier to show up 100% in the next venture.
One of the things that I've heard also is that there's no such thing as failure. Is to really reframe that word is feedback. It's life gives you feedback, and it's a growing opportunity. And then when you don't see that as a failure, you can shake it off, I think, way faster.
Yes.
Definitely.
And know that it's going to happen.
Yes.
If you expect it, it's going to happen. It's just how quickly can I bounce back emotionally?
Sure. Yeah. You're out there testing and trying and getting that feedback, as Lee just said, and just course adjusting and all of that. Yeah. Do you have any daily or regular habits that you use? Journaling, prayer, those kind of
Yes.
tips?
All of the above. And I'm not so my business coach, who was my sales coach back in 2013, right? But he's evolved with me as my roles have evolved. But back in 2013, he was like, I want you to journal. I'm like, I rolled my eyes. He goes, I already stop rolling your eyes. Yeah, because he knows me. I'm like, I'm not
Dear
like a
diary, I am.
feeling today because I never liked the feeling stuff. I never liked being vulnerable because I felt like it was a weakness. And so I didn't want to be that person that was writing out my feelings. But what he showed me was how to harness journaling into writing out your I am statements. Like, who do I
Mhm.
have to be today? Who do I have to show up as? What version of Keeley do I have to be to get done what I need to get done to be that person 5 years from now? If you don't show up as him or her today, you're never going to get there. So, like, man, I don't want to make that phone call because that seems scary. What if they don't think I'm qualified? It's like, well, would the Keeley 5 years from now pick up the phone? Yes, she would. So, girl, you better pick up the phone and make that phone call and doing that stuff. But it starts with, like, okay, who am I today? So I've got all kinds of I am statements in my journal, and actually just bought, I'm looking over here because they're on the counter, but they're these like Amazon. I got them on Amazon, but it's like markers for your mirror that you can write on your
Yeah.
bathroom mirror. I've got little sticky notes everywhere, like just little notes and reminders. And I always see them exactly when I need it, exactly when survival brain is kicked in. And it's like, wait a second, we're not going down that path. This is what we need to believe today to be successful. So it's a lot of that.
Mm.
Great. Yeah. Those are awesome. I do a little bit of that as well. Yeah. I always struggled a bit with journaling. Just what am I going to write about? I don't, same things, but yes, those are powerful. Yeah. My evening practice is the 3 wins. What did I do today? What are 3 things I want to hit tomorrow? And then gratitude as well. And then the morning's purpose and I ams and things like that. Those are really powerful tools and tips.
Yeah. And I'm really getting a lot better at this, not picking up my phone the first thing in the morning and
Oof.
checking email. And,
Yeah.
it's like, can we just have some time to have our
Yeah,
coffee and, like,
it's
you
proactive
know?
mode versus reactive
Mhm.
mode. It immediately we are so surrounded by,
Mm.
I guess everything is fighting for our attention today
Yes.
in today's world, right? Social media, the phone, the email. If you've got a family, kids are up and they're demanding things or whatever. But yeah, it's hard to carve out, but it's so important to have very intentional time, whether it's first thing in the morning, which is typically the easiest, or at least some point or several points throughout the day to
I,
to recenter.
I really love the concept. Tony Robbins has this concept of priming for the day, priming yourself for the day, and do that first thing in the morning where you just don't give in any temptations and distractions, but really take that time to prime yourself for the day, whatever works for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very powerful.
Yeah. Whenever I've done his priming, I always feel like I'm on cloud nine
Yes.
when I'm done. Man, I can take on
Face
anything
the world
today.
for sure.
Yes.
But we all fight with that temptation. I'm so guilty of it. Like first thing in the morning, I grab my phone and then I'm totally sucked in the notifications and distractions. And
And we think everything's an emergency. Like we make it an emergency and then we just start, right? And then eventually we end up with an eye twitch and we're exhausted. My eye twitch is like my sign. Okay,
Yeah,
you're doing too
I
much.
gotta
No,
need some me time. Yeah.
yes.
All right. So today you are coaching in a great your coaching program one is very fresh and unique, at least from what my experience with sales practices and tips are. But you deal with a lot of people in that level. What do you see in terms of clients that you work with? Maybe common factors, be them limiting beliefs or success factors, and any tips or ways of working that are notable for you.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has head trash. I've never met anybody that doesn't have it. So the key is learning how to take out that trash every day. So I do like you said, a lot of sales coaching. Like I am big on strategy. You'll have the exact framework, like the words to say, what to do, but how to say it so that your client that you're talking to feels like you're really serving them in the conversation. You're never selling. But what gets people stuck is what's going on between their ears before they execute. So when I was in corporate, I had about 600 salespeople, and I had guys and gals on different teams that knew they'd been through training enough. They'd heard me teach enough that if I was sick or something happened, they could stand up there and do the whole training, start to finish, like just as good as if it was me saying it. But they were struggling in their role because of what was going on between their
Mm.
ears. And whether it was head trash around money, that is a big one when you're in a sales role. A lot of business owners struggle with that. I've seen it happen with a lot of women. I dealt with this early in my sales career, and my coach, beat it out of me basically. But where we discount ourselves and we charge what we think people will pay us instead of
Mm.
what we know we're worth, and get uncomfortable talking about money and like feel bad putting ourselves out there as a high ticket, whatever it is that you do. And I learned this was such a valuable lesson in 2013. My coach taught me this. And I asked him, I'm like, so I had a client that said, you're really expensive. Because when I was selling high ticket education, it was expensive. It was 15 grand to $75,000 that people were paying to learn how to actively manage their retirement accounts and trading accounts. And I was like, how do you handle that? Because when somebody tells you that, you want to start making excuses for it and justifying why it's that price point. And I was like, what do you say? He goes, you say, yeah. I was like, that's it. It was like, you say, yeah. And you just stare at him. And he taught me that. He's like, you don't apologize for anything. There's a reason why you charge what you charge, and you need to charge what you know you're worth, not what you think people are willing to pay you. And so every time I teach a strategy, I always come back to, okay, does anybody have any head trash or any resistance to wanting to pick up the phone and make this phone call? And let's talk through it. And I've gotten in the habit where a lot of clients will get on. I'm like, who has calls for help? And they'll raise their hand. They're like, I need a pep talk. I'm in the middle of a live raise and I need help. And it's a pep talk, right? It's like, okay, what resistance are you feeling? Those are not your thoughts. That is the reptilian brain just trying to protect you. What is the worst thing that can happen? What would happen if you actually picked up the phone? And do you think that possibly this person will be excited to talk to you? And so we're dealing with that stuff. They know what to say, but
Yeah.
it's the stuff in our head that gets in the way.
Mhm.
So it's so important. And again, sometimes you're taking out your head trash 3-4 times a day. It just depends on what you're going through at the time.
And is that just so to hear you describe it? Is that just really a reframing you find most helpful to take that list of limiting beliefs or whatever you're thinking and put a counter narrative on it and
Yeah.
go after it?
Yeah. It's that counter narrative. And so one of the things I hated the most in my sales role was cold calling. Like I hated it. I would get really red from like here down. Like you could just totally tell I was hot, right? I'd like have a fan on in my office. I'm like, this sucks. People are so mean, right? When you're making cold calls. And I'd resist it. And, I was talking to my coach and he was like, you don't have to like it, but you have to do it. Like if you want to make money, you got to pick up the phone. And so I put this label on my phone. It's like, the old school office phone that you actually pick up the receiver. And I put a label on there that said, pick me up every time you do, I make you money. And I was like, oh, okay. Right. So it's just this reframe of what's the worst thing that can happen? They're going to cuss me out. They're going to hang up on me. They're going to be mean, whatever. They're just having a bad day. On to the next one. And it really helped me just get in that mode of I don't have to like it, but I have to do it. And the more that I just say yes and do the things that I'm resisting, the easier it becomes. And it's usually the stuff that we resist in our business are the exact things that will change everything. It's the stuff we're avoiding
Mhm.
are the big game changers in our business and probably in our life too.
100% for sure. I mean, yes, we all have those resistance points and we go about um, meeting them in different ways, be it procrastination or distraction, or, oh, I've got all these urgent things I need to be doing over here that aren't really urgent, or something.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's really just figuring out a way to prioritize how to get through that. So, yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. It's your money making machine and not, not this device that somebody's just going to yell at you on. One of my first jobs out of college was in sales, and it was in wine and
Mm.
wine and beer is what I did to restaurants. We had a division that did alcohol to bigger chains and stuff. But yeah, I used to have to go around to just all the restaurants in a certain geographical area and try to place our wines and beers and different things in there. And I had, yeah, I mean, I don't know what I was, 22 or 3, and I did not have the emotional maturity to be out there. I would just, it was one of those jobs too where it was self-paced, and so I would just
Mhm.
go home and watch TV or something. I can go call on them tomorrow. They're probably busy right now. They didn't talk to
Right.
me or something. But
Yeah. We negotiate with ourselves.
that job didn't
I,
that
I'm
job
really
didn't
good
last
at
very long, by the way.
right. I know, especially when if you're commission only, it's like if we don't pick up the phone and we
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
knock on doors, we aren't paying the bills. So it's this funny. But yeah, we find creative ways to procrastinate. Like, I gotta read this marketing book. This is really important. It's
Mhm.
like, no, we need to pick up the phone, make
Yes.
the call.
Yeah. The conversation is where it's at.
Yeah.
Who says, I can't remember who said, but the easiest way to make money in online sales is with the phone.
Hmm. Yeah.
it's not a clever social media post or some flashy email that goes out, right? You got to have that conversation most of the time.
Yes. So true.
Well, what about success factors? So, do you see? I'm sure you have some rock stars that go through your program. Okay, everybody's got a little head trash or whatever, but any significant commonalities that people have developed over time that just lead them to that championship mindset?
Yeah, I think trusting the process. Like I had a client, this was yesterday in a coaching session, and I always started out I'm like, does anybody have any, wins? We do wins first, things to celebrate because I force them to force them to celebrate because like what we talked about earlier, we
Yes.
don't celebrate ourselves. And then he calls for help before we go into the lesson for the day. And he unmuted himself and he was like, I'm really proud of the fact that like, I think he'd only raised $200,000 on a previous deal. And he had just launched it. I think within a few days, he was already over 1 million. And he was like, it was all those little things that you told me to do that led to the big result. And I've noticed that it's like, I can't really tell who comes in, who's going to be an A player or
Hmm.
who's going to struggle, but it's the people that do the work that get the results. Like, I don't think there's anything more special about one versus the other. It's just they do the work.
Right.
Even if it makes them uncomfortable, they do what they're supposed to do to get to the end. And that's what I always say, like, I'll build you the ladder, but you got to climb it. Like,
Hmm.
I can't climb it for you, but I will make sure you are never without your questions answered. You will always have support. You will always know what to do, but I can't make you do it.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
and
just
those are
those
the
small
levers that we have to find within ourselves.
Mhm.
That kind of circles back to, what are your natural tendencies that you've developed over time to um, not do the work that needs to be done, and how do you find the right triggers to overcome that? Mhm.
Yeah, I banned myself from business books for about 6 months. So it's a couple of years ago. It's like, "You're not allowed to buy any more business books, you're not allowed to pick them up," because I was using it as a way to delay doing the things that I needed to do in my business because I was scared of the outcome.
Yeah.
And it's
Mhm.
like that's, doing all this self-work, that's where you're able to step outside of yourself and look back and be like, girl, what are you really doing over there? Like, why are you reading those books? So it gave me at least the ability to see what I was doing and why I was doing it. And it wasn't that I needed marketing training. It was I was avoiding stuff because I was terrified of the outcome.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Let me read
I'm
this.
much
Let me
better
read
than
this
you.
Yeah.
next book
Yeah.
that might have the secret. I can be so guilty of that.
Yeah.
I was telling Legit, I think just yesterday, like I'm a knowledge junkie. Like I love to just
Mm.
consume all kinds of information and knowledge, and if I'm not careful, as you just mentioned, then I will get caught up in just knowledge for knowledge's sake and not applying it. I see so many people on social media that are, I'm reading a book a week and or I'm set out to do 26 books this year. And I'm like, what are you taking away from those books though? Are you hopefully taking the core messages out of those and applying them into your life? But
Yeah, my business coach named Tiffany, this is the one that I thought I was hiring for online marketing. She gave me so much more,
Jill,
but
your life guru
she's
now.
yes, I mean, like, it was amazing. I'm like, "Well, I got exactly what I needed out of it." But she always said, like, if you ever find yourself feeling like it is a feeling of depression in your business or anxious
Mhm.
thoughts or just like you're not happy, you're unsettled, she said it's usually because you are consuming more than you're creating.
Mm.
And when that gets off balance and you're consuming, whether it's books and podcasts, and you're watching everybody else build their
Mm.
business, thinking that you're learning from it, but you're not creating, it's like that's when you start to feel depressed. Like we are designed, our creator made us to create things.
Mhm.
And so it's interesting that when you start taking steps and you start applying that stuff and creating and building and giving back, those feelings go away. At least they did for me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a brilliant observation. I
it
haven't
is.
ever really thought of it in that way. I do agree that we are designed to create, be it whatever, physical works or thoughts or anything like that. But yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to ponder that a little bit here. Albert.
Another thing that comes to mind is that this act of creation and taking action it really is associated with our coachability. And I find myself many times as a coachee that I'm stubborn and I'm not ready to take that step. And to your point earlier, that many times when we take those steps that are hard for us and really address that issue that we need to address, that those are the moments when we grow. And those are the moments when we start creating and take actions. But I realize that I'm struggling with my, being coachable. Many times I'm so stubborn and I'm so afraid and I'm so, doing all these things. And it really comes all of it together. Like I have to deal with my head trash but really with my ability to to listen and take action. And many times we hire coaches to help us do just that. But then we,
Hey, don't
you
point
know,
out my blind spots.
yeah,
Or
then we resist, we resist the very thing that would help us grow. So,
Yeah, my coach asked me that question. This was back in when I first hired him, like 2012, maybe 2013. And I was supposed to be doing something. I can't remember what it was, but I kept putting it off and it was recording my conversation. He wanted to watch film, right? And record my sales conversations. And I was terrified because I didn't want him to hear me,
yeah.
which is just stupid, right? Like you hire a
yeah, you're
coach,
my
Yeah.
coach.
like how to get better. But I didn't want to, like, I was so weird about it. And week after week, he'd ask me. And so he got to the place where he said, Keeley, how do you want me to handle this next week when we meet again? And you tell me that you still haven't recorded your calls. And for me, that was like, I'm going to do it. I promise. I'm like, I actually stuck to my word that time because of how he framed the
Yeah.
question. He'd say that, how do I say something to you that you're not going to like it, but we're still friends at the end of it? How do you want me to frame it? I was like, just say it. But he was he's very direct, and that's what I wanted. That is what a coach is for. It's to call you out on your crap and
Yeah.
get you out of your own way. And sometimes you're mad at him. I was very upset with him one time. I was making a lot of excuses on why I had a bad month in sales. And it was everybody else's fault but my own. And he said, Keeley, there's no such thing as bad prospects, only bad salespeople. And until you start taking ownership of these conversations and the things you're not doing, you're not going to get better. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, I can't stand you. Get out of my office, even though I hired him, right? But
Yeah.
that's why I was so upset about it. But that's like what you need. Those are the things you need to hear. And it stuck with me for over a decade because it was so impactful.
That's great. What about one of the things I wanted to discuss with you are helpful resources that you draw on, be they coaches or books, podcasts. You can plug your own. It's kind of
Yeah. I mean, I love coaches. So I still have a really great sales coach. His name's Adam Boyd. He does a lot of coaching for people that are selling to other businesses. So B2B
uh-huh.
selling.
Mhm.
He's incredible. Just a rock star. Like I just love working with him, and I feel like he gets better and better as the years go by. So he will be like a sales samurai in the next 10 years. So he's amazing. But you know what? I haven't been in the consuming mode lately because I try to think about like, oh, what are my favorite podcasts? I honestly haven't been listening to podcasts lately. And I haven't been like, I have, look, I just bought this on Amazon, but I haven't read it. I love Dr. Cialdini. Anything that's from him on influence, persuasion. This one, my sales coach recommended for me, but I still have it sitting over here because I'm in a creation mode right now and I'm working on something that I'm launching. And so I'm focused on creating.
That's great.
But yeah, so nothing really comes top of mind right now
That's
because
okay.
I'm in.
No, coaches in general are great. A shout out to a specific one. I love that. Um, I like we just talked about. I love the concept of taking a break. I actually just got a novel because I'm out of business book mode or whatever. I've just digested too much, and I'm like, I need something easy now and again to kind of distract me there. So I can totally sympathize with that.
I enjoy those a lot. I found, and I'm a murder mystery girl because I loved those when I was a kid, like the teenage version.
Uh-huh.
But I read them now, and I found that like when I actually unplug and read something that's entertaining or listen to it on Audible, like I'm more creative when it's time to be
Mm.
creative because I'm not just trying to cram in more business information into my brain. So maybe that's what we should start promoting as murder mystery books to
Well,
help
whatever
me.
works for you, because I will echo your sentiment. Like, I'm a runner, so I love to go run, and invariably, maybe half the time I'll plug in a podcast and I'll listen to something while I'm going, but a lot of times I will just unplug and let my mind roam and
Mhm.
ideas flow. In the shower is a big one for me. Like, I don't know why ideas just come. So I need one of those markers to write on the tile in the shower or
They
something on the
have
shower
them.
door. But
Amazon.
There's something called
Mm.
shower
Yeah.
notes. It's a notepad. I have
uh-huh.
it. Get it on Amazon, shower notes. It's a
Okay.
waterproof notepad and it has a waterproof pencil. And you can write on it and then you can tear the sheet off and it suctions to your shower
Oh,
wall.
that's great. All right. Brilliant. Yeah. But regardless, point being, this is also one of the core concepts in strategic coach program
Mhm.
is they teach time blocking or time chunking. Essentially, he teaches it on a daily basis, like block a free day, like a whole day, 24-hour period where you don't touch anything business related or
Mhm.
anything like that. And it's really one of the purposes is just that. It's like your mind needs some time to unplug. Your creativity will flower and flourish during that time period. You'll also come back more rejuvenated and be able to
Mhm.
focus better when you are plugged in. But yeah, I mean, I am a firm believer and a witness to unplugging and just allowing those creative ideas to come. And also, yeah, they come from different sources, right? If you're always plugged into the business and personal development books, then you've got a small bubble that you're operating in versus if you're reading about murders, then wow, a lot of creative you can start.
Do you remember Nancy Drew?
Oh
Nancy
yes, of
Drew were
course,
like my
Party
favorite
Boys,
books.
Nancy Drews, yeah,
Yes, yes. So I know, don't judge me, but I really love them.
yeah.
Like I'm just enjoying not, just one business book after the other. And I feel like when you're just consuming other people's ideas, you're just watching other people build their business. And it fills up my brain with too much information
Mhm.
versus in my gut, I know what I need to do and
Yes.
just start creating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but just kind of circling back to what I was saying earlier. I mean, my tendency can be that way as well, to overconsume or to um, create too many options for a business path. And yes, I mean, it's really distilling down to, hey, if I do this one thing and do it well, all the other stuff will fall into place. So,
Mhm.
yeah, definitely.
I love that.
Well,
Is it anything that you are most excited for in the near future? Are you free to talk about it?
I love that question. I'm actually under an NDA on one of them, so
Okay.
no.
Okay, well, a
Yeah,
project to be named later. It sounds like you're
Yes.
working on
what?
something, and
It can be
Yeah,
personal as well.
yeah, there's, I always think about, like, what are you excited about? My mind always goes to business, but I am very excited about the future of our real estate stuff and, within agriculture and just a lot of cool things. There's something very spiritual about a vineyard, and it's just I don't know, one of the most interesting investments that we've ever done. And there's a lot of spiritual conversations that are happening with investors because of the vineyards. I don't know where this is all leading to, but it's deeper than a lot of the other investments we've done.
uh-huh.
And I'm excited about the future of that.
I love that. I didn't say it at the beginning of the podcast when you mentioned vineyard, but we're growing some tomatoes on our porch, and
Oh,
there's just
love that.
there's something about
Yes.
we put a patio in out back, and we seeded grass out there, and
Oh,
Lidge out there every day. It's taller. I can see it. It's coming up. There's more here. So there's something
yes.
magical about
Yes. There is.
growing, and I was going to say that earlier, that like I can't imagine a vineyard. Like,
Yeah.
we have a tomato plant in a rail top planter box, and it's exciting. But to have hundreds of thousands of grapes growing out in West Texas land is I'm sure something to
Yeah.
behold.
It's
Mhm.
fun. I saw a quote that because when I used to own a home, I spent the whole weekend in the yard,
Hmm.
and it said if you're cranky, you need to garden.
Hmm.
I was like, what? It's so true. I loved being out there, and like I have this little plant over there that I'm really proud of that's
Mhm.
been growing and like outgrowing the space that it's in. But I don't know, I love that aspect of nature and life and the things that I didn't take the time to notice when I was in corporate. And I'm just trying to live my life differently now. That, or I'm at that age where I start noticing, like I'm taking pictures of, oh my God, that's a beautiful tree. Let me
Yeah.
take a picture of that
That's
and send
awesome.
that to my dad and say, hey, do you want, we should put this tree at the ranch. I just notice those things now. I never cared before. And I think it's a slower pace of life.
It is. It is.
Nervous.
I've noticed that as well. That you slow
Mhm.
down, you stop and smell the roses, as they say, and admire things. The leaves are changing here. The aspens are all turning. So
Oh, wow.
it's every day is a little bit different shade and hue, and yeah, we're blessed, honestly, to get to do this every day and live a life that we've charted for ourselves. Back to
Yes.
our earlier conversation, I take nothing away from a W-2 job in corporate, but for us, life opened up at a magical time, and we, I guess, had the good fortune to actually step down that path
Mhm.
instead of being too busy to notice it. So it was a blessing. But
Yeah, y'all's home is like a retreat or resort. Like every time I see photos, it just feels peaceful.
it is. We talk about it. Legit asked me the other day, where do you want to go next? I was like, nowhere. I don't.
Mhm.
I was on the back porch.
Mhm.
We can sit or something. And so it's hard.
I love
We need to get to Dallas to visit mom and dad and daughters, and it's just hard to pry myself away. Nobody will come up here and visit us for some reason. I don't know what's going on
that's
there,
crazy,
but
especially in the heat of the summer in
I
Texas.
know.
Like,
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
that's the perfect place to be.
Anyway. Well, let's kind of circle around to an ending point on this. Similar to the matchups, we like to end these with some gratitude. You've referenced a few people, but any specific shout outs you want to give of thanks?
Yeah, I mentioned my coaches and the hired help, but I think I need to mention the people in my life that didn't have to support me at the level that they do, and it's my parents. And I just like I would my mom and my dad always saw things in me when I couldn't see it in myself. Like I remember in corporate, she was like, "You're going to be VP of sales of this company," and I was like, in my mind, I was like, "You're crazy. They already have all these people in place, and like, I'm 25 years old. Like this is not gonna." But she saw it in me, and I think just having that gave me the confidence to go after it. Watching my dad his whole life go after things and get knocked down and, encounter challenges, but he's just tough as they come. He's a Marine and he says, if you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you have to do, just keep moving forward. And so all of that stuff they've instilled in me is the reason I'm successful. I owe so much to my parents, like so much.
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Parents can be a blessing. It can also.
I know. I know there's the other side of that. And I do. I realize that I've been, people say that a lot. They're like, you're very blessed. And so I don't want to take it for
It's
granted.
also a lot about perspective. I mean, I think as with anything or anybody, we can choose to see the lessons and the growth and the beauty, or take a self-centered approach and figure out how things have harmed us. And so, yeah, I've always been fortunate to like and love my parents and see the greatness that they have passed along, and instead of victimizing or doing anything like that.
Yeah, I saw a quote. This was like maybe a couple days ago. I think it was on TikTok, but it said, it was some man that was taking a photo of his dad when he was older. And he said, I always remind myself like to give my parents a grace because this is their first time doing life as a human too. I was like, man, that really hit me. Like
Yeah,
Yes.
everybody's just doing the best that they can in this world that we live in. And, I think when people hurt you or do things that are painful, it's like, it's not coming from a place of like hurt people hurt people.
hmm
And even as adults, I feel like we're all children with feelings running around, that some stuff we never dealt with when we were kids. And so I try to remember that like my parents are doing the best they can with what they had when I was a kid and even today. And we're all responsible for our own life. And like you said, giving grace to people and extending that and not assuming or taking the victim role that, man, they were trying to hurt me, I think goes a long way in every
yeah,
relationship.
definitely. Well, we're grateful to call you a friend and to have you in our lives, and also grateful for you coming on for the second time here on the podcast and sharing a few nuggets of wisdom.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for y'all. And you better, when you come to Dallas, I better hear about it or I'm going to come
For
find you.
sure. We'll be there in November for sure. If not, once again sooner. We're trying to figure that out. But how can we help you, and how can people connect with you that are interested to hear a little bit more about any of your ventures?
Yeah. I mean, find me on social media. I'm probably most active on LinkedIn these
hmm
days, but find me anywhere, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And yeah, please reach out.
Just at Keeley
I
Hubbard.
love, yeah. Yeah. Just my first and last name. There's a lot of E's in my first name. So just keep that in mind. Keeley. But yeah, find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, any of those. I'd love to have a conversation. I love meeting people.
And we know you have an excellent podcast. You want to touch a little bit on that?
Thank you. Yes, I do. And I took a pause on it for a little bit because I'm revamping the content behind it and bringing on some really cool guests. But it's called Standing in the Arena, and it is a lot of sales, a lot of mindset, a lot of business lessons, and it's been a real passion and joy. So thank you for reminding me to mention that.
That's awesome.
All right, great stuff. Well, thanks again for coming on, and we'll definitely look to see you here before the year's out, and catch up with one another in person. But thanks again, and we wish you all the best and great success, and keep on serving the community.
Thanks, y'all, so much. I'll see you soon.
All right, bye bye. For those of you joining us today, we hope you enjoyed this time in the Champions Corner as much as we did. Got some awesome takeaways, and most importantly, will take action to continue living your best life and maximizing your potential. Mindset is such an important aspect of life, and when coupled with action, delivers undeniably powerful results.
Please subscribe to the podcast to hear from more great guests and get the latest mindset mastery insights and cash flow matchups.
Again, thank you so much for investing your time with us, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast.